Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Refined Conversation. I am your host, Courtney, and today we have Loren Holmes with us. Welcome, Loren.
Hey, how's it going?
Thank you so much for joining us. So, we're going to go ahead and get started. But before we start, I want to say a quick prayer just over the conversation, and then we'll jump right in. So, Father, I thank you for everyone that is tuning in, and I pray that you would lead this conversation and that it would bless any and everyone who is watching it. May we minimize ourselves and maximize you to give you all the glory. I ask these blessings in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So, thank you so much for joining me. So, pretty much here, what I want to talk about is where did your faith start?
All right. Well, thank you for having me first.
Absolutely.
Um, I will start off by saying I was very hesitant to agree to even do this because I told my friend, I said, "Yeah, I'm not that Christian." He was like, "You're either Christian or you're not."
Mhm.
I said, "You're right, right, but that's us putting our own stuff on us to make it seem like we're not holy
Yes.
enough or whatever." And so I want to say I didn't get serious about my faith up until maybe like 5 years ago, because up until then I was very much so like in and out. When things were good, I was all about Jesus, and then when they were bad, I was like, I need something else. And
Yeah.
so I had my kid, 5 years ago, and it was then where I was like, I probably need to be getting close to God. Like I have a whole human being that I'm about to, bring into the planet, and I would like to be a good example for her. And I feel like the only way that I'm able to do that is to have a relationship with Christ. Like I can't just be out here winging it with a whole nother person. I mean, we kind of are a little bit, but like I care about her soul. Like I don't just care about her existence here. That's important, but I also care about like her eternal existence too. So that's when I mean, I say buckle down, but I just got a little bit more serious. I joined the church. I, became active in children's ministry, because she started going to the nursery. As she got older, or has gotten older, she's just become more active, like singing in the choir and doing plays and that stuff. And, we both go to vacation Bible school. Like I, do Bible study, join the morning prayer on Wednesdays, like, just doing my best to just have a closer relationship with God, because I mean it's very important as a Christian. You can't just say you're a Christian and then not
Not
try
wrong.
to be in relationship. That's not how it works. Like
No, I
there's
think you said a mouthful because I think that's one of the hardest things about making the decision to follow Christ is thinking that Christians have to look a certain way. And every Christian looks different. There's no blueprint for how your relationship with God is going to go. And I think everybody gets there on their own, in their
mm-hmm,
own time, in their on their own terms, kind of. And so I'd say like take me on the other side of that. I've been in church since I was little, and I've had those moments where I've come and I've gone, depending on how life was. Like in my 20s, I was like, I want to have fun. But at the same
mm-hmm,
time, it's like I can't have fun the way the world has fun and then follow Christ at the same time. It's a contradiction. And so what really made me buckle down, and I hate to say this, is when my mom got sick. I was coming out of divorce and my mom got sick like a year or so later. And when she passed, it's been about 7, almost 8 years. Like
mm-hmm,
that was that's what it took to really get to tell me, Courtney, quit playing with me. And you really need to like, if I want to see my mom again, I need to get my heart right. I need to get that relationship right. So it doesn't matter what it looks like or how you get there. The goal is to get there. And so
mm-hmm,
I think you make a very good point. You had your daughter and you're like, I'm responsible for giving her the building, helping her build her foundation.
mm-hmm,
And I think the best thing that you can do, the best thing that any parent can do, is give them the introduction that they need, because at the end of the day, they have to make the choice themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You got to give them back to God.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I think that, so like right now, my kid's 5,
Mm-hmm.
and we've kind of been going through, like, the older they get, the more independence they realize that they have, and autonomy, and,
Mm-hmm.
and so there's been like a bit of a power struggle, right? Which is normal developmentally.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel normal in the moment. It feels like I need to pray for you right now. Um, because Lord, get your child, okay? um, and I mean, but when I pray for her or with her, that is part of my prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Lord, help your child, please get her. Leilani, speaking of the child, can you? So that's the prayer. Like, Lord, please, like, get your child. I can't. You made her, and there's a lot about her that I don't know that you do.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you have to do, please, because we are not having a good week, or we might,
Mm-hmm.
like, you go toe to toe with your kids sometimes. So I'm just like, we need a mediator.
I will say it sounds like having a child has taught you surrender quite a bit,
Yes.
because that is like everything that I hear
Mm-hmm.
is like, take her, take it. Like, this is not for me to deal with. Like, you are capable. You know who you created, who you called down here. And I think that's something that's so important when you're walking with Christ, is learning how to surrender everything. There's nothing that he cannot handle, and he will never put anything on your plate that he will not equip you to carry or take care of. And I think
Mm-hmm.
you explained it beautifully. And just kind of moving forward in that, what would you say has been probably the biggest test of your faith outside of parenthood? Kind of as far as your character goes, and defining who you are as you have been growing as a parent, as a Christian parent, like, how has
Mm-hmm.
that transformed your character?
Ooh, I will say that I am a bit of a firecracker. Okay, I will pop off,
Hmm.
and it has definitely that's different now. Like, when I remember and think of the grace that God gives me every day I wake up, it's like, okay, well, who am I to just pop off on people, like, like I might want to,
Hmm.
because people will be people, right?
People gonna people
Um,
all the time.
but I'm like, imagine if God just decided to pop off on me, like,
Mm,
that
that.
pop off gonna look way different.
Yes.
Okay. He was smiting people at one point. Like, I didn't like what you did, your whole family. Okay. Every, everybody catching strays. Like, see, people forget that God too. You got to remember that one,
Hmm.
because he's still that one. He's the God of
Yes.
wrath and love.
Yes.
Okay. And so it's allowed me to calm down in that
Hmm.
way. And then also, even like my intimate relationships that I've had, I've had to tell certain guys, like, if you think that this is about to be more than this, then we should probably, we're not,
Hmm.
because you're not going to get what you think you're going to get from me. Uh, Not unless we go together forever. Okay.
Facts.
So that's been a struggle too, because that's honestly been one of my, like, weakest points. I mean, shoot, as humans, right? It's just,
Girl, same boat.
you're all right.
Same
The
boat.
flesh is weak, baby. The flesh is weak.
Oh my gosh. No, you literally said a mouthful, because the craziest thing is, like, I went through that where I'm like, the door is closed. And lust is something that I never thought that I would struggle with, but it came through like tenfold. And when you start
Mm-hmm.
telling people no, I'm like, Lord, who's left? Like, nobody's, like, there's nobody left. Like, fix it, Jesus. Like, I just need
Right.
one. Like, I'm like, give me a break. I'm not doing anything. I'm not out here wilding and like sleeping with everybody. I'm like, I just need one. But he's just like, you know what, I'm going to hide you and I'm going to build you. And there is one for you, but he's not here yet. So until then, I need
Mm-hmm.
you to blossom and grow and build your relationship with me and focus on me. And when I say that you're ready, this person will enter into the picture. But until then, it's like, no. And one of the things my faith has caused me to do is to
Mm-hmm.
cut people off. It's not just relationally for like romantic relationship, intimate relationships, friends, family, colleagues. Like I've had to cut so many people off because they pull at my flesh, and it's the fleshly desires that I've already been delivered from that they try to pull
Mm-hmm.
you back to. And it's that familiar spirit that hits you. And it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
I did used to go out, and yeah, I don't have to drink if I go out, but just getting around music, getting around certain environments and atmospheres, it literally just kind of pulls me back. And I start basically saying, okay, like I can do this just for one night. Like it's okay. And then I'm
Mm-hmm.
in a world of trouble trying to get out of it. So
Mm-hmm.
I really understand when God takes you and he removes you from a situation so that you can grow, and then your character starts to shift and starts to change. And he is going
Mm-hmm.
to develop your character to show you who he is. I heard a quote yesterday, and it says, let me check my phone to make sure I say it right because I did write it down. But too much in my phone, that's for sure.
Don't we all?
She
I
said, the
write
closer
things and
you
forget I
get
wrote
to
it.
Jesus, the more the parts that don't look like him come to the surface, because it's a sifting
Mm-hmm.
process. And you really have to take away all the things that are not of him to actually become like him. And that happens with intimate relationships. Coworkers was kind of the thing that shocked me the most because I didn't think those relationships were that close. But
Mm-hmm.
then when they left, I had a sense of peace. And I was like, oh, they were not supposed to be here. But I think that one of the most beautiful things is when you really submit to that relationship with Christ, he's really going to start improving your character and making you more like him. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the fall away, the fallout that you didn't expect. And what I'm curious about is what other fallout did you encounter that you didn't expect that would happen when you decided 5 years ago that you were going to follow him?
Um, well, I don't think the fallouts really started happening
Mm-hmm.
until maybe 3 years, 2, 3 years into it. One was with one of my best friends. They had been away, for lack of a better word. And during my pregnancy, I decided that I didn't want to be around or visit them because of where they were. I'm just going to say that. I'm going to talk in circles and people can fill in the
Okay.
blanks. And I mean, because you're pregnant, there are just certain environments you don't want to be in. They're just
Yeah.
uncomfortable, like physically uncomfortable. And so when when they came back to the free world, they were really upset with me, and they were
Mm-hmm.
like, "Well, you didn't come visit me, you didn't whatever." And I'm like, when I tell you, I really prayed about it, and he said no. Like, don't put yourself in a space that you're not comfortable being in, and if that's your friend, then they will be okay with
Yeah.
they'll be okay with it, you
Yeah.
know. Um, and so after that conversation, we didn't really talk for a long time. And after I had Lay, he wanted to see her. She was like 6 months or something. So I went over to his place, and it was almost like, yeah, this ain't what it used to be.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not, like, even, and that's right. That's not to say that when you become Christian, I think that some Christians will feel like they're better than
Mm-hmm.
other people, because of, where they are in their walk with Christ. And, oh, well, y'all do those things. Like, you used to do it too. So don't do that.
Exactly.
But also, if that's not where you're at anymore, then that's okay. But you don't have to drag somebody because they're still there, you know.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, he was smoking and people was coming over and all the things, and I'm like, nah. I just said to myself, yeah, this will probably be the last time that I am here.
Yeah.
I love you. I love you from far away, and even like to this day, I mean, he is, he's supportive of Lay and what she does. And like we check in, but it can't be what it was. Cause I'm not that girl no more,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah.
And we've known each other since, I mean, middle school, so like 11, 12 years old. Right. But it was that situation, and then not being connected with him for the time that I wasn't, and then deciding that, okay, Christ got to be it, and then stepping back in, it's like you kind of feels like the Twilight Zone almost.
Yeah.
Like, even though it is familiar, it just doesn't feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
you know
Yeah.
and that
I
one
say
hurt
leave
because, like I
space
said,
for
we were
grace.
friends.
Those are always hard.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that one hurt because we have been friends for pretty much our whole lives.
Yeah.
So that one hurt. And then I'll say, I think another one that hurt was losing one of my really close friends. She passed away from lupus.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And she was a Christian. She was, I mean, she had her relationship with God, and she honestly, after I had Lay, so she has my friend's middle name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they share the same middle name, and I'll always go back and like look at videos, voice notes and all the things, and I'm just like, my girl was really out here still praising God, and all that she was going through and experiencing. Like, how?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to know how I can do that. Like, she was praising him in the hospital bed,
Mm-hmm.
And so she was another factor, and like things that would just come up for me, like in life, like I'm pregnant. Oh, we would always talk about being pregnant and having kids, and just all that stuff. And like you said, like I want to be able to see you again.
Yes.
you know um so yeah, those were a couple of things. I feel like I probably have several, but those were just some of like the bigger things.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do consider my friends to be like family. That stuff is just, I mean, it's tough. Those two situations in particular were very tough.
Yeah. I do love that you mentioned how your friend was still praising God even when she was sick, because that is something that I remember the most about my mom. In every picture that I have of her, she has that Bible right in front of her in that
Mm-hmm.
picture. And she prayed her way through pain, and she praised him on the good days, she praised him on the bad days, and it's just how God will accompany you through every storm. You don't have to, he's not going to leave you and pick you back up when it gets easier. He's walking right there with you. And I think that's a good example to show people when you're going through something, and it actually helps us on our walk to see other people embody the things that we talk about in church. It's not just for show, but for her to actually be praising God when she's at near the end of her life and she's going through all these things, I think that's a beautiful sight to see. And I have similar stories to you as people have had to let go and walk away from. And I just heard an analogy, and it really resonated with me because I have a hard time letting people go. This whole year has been like, walk away, let them go, like cut the cord. I've had situations so bad this year that I actually had someone call the police on me and my family. Yeah. And people were attacking my character and doing all these things. It was a
Oh
very
my
hard year for
gosh!
me. I know. I'm like, me of all people, like,
Right? I'm like,
I don't take
where?
things.
Oh my God! My
I
goodness!
know. And so I really had to lean on my faith for strength. And God gave me peace throughout the whole thing. Like, yes, I had days where I was crying because I didn't understand, but He gave me so much peace. And as I kind of realized how my relationships we're going to have to change in this season, and certain people that have been with me for years, certain people that this person was supposed to be one of the safe people in my family that I could always go to, and now they don't exist as far as like people that I communicate with. And so I think it gives you perspective not to put too much into people and to put all your trust and all your faith in God. And
Yeah.
that was my perspective shift this year. There was this analogy, example, whatever you want to call it, that I heard early this year. And it said how, you know how you hear the story about the tree and like how the branches and the leaves fall and people are like leaving your life and all that kind of stuff. I think this one was better because the guy said, picture your life as a minivan that you're driving. You have 3 rows in the minivan. You have the people in the front seat that are with you, people that counsel you, people that know what's going on in your life and have an active role in your life. Then you have the people in the middle. So the people in the middle are the people that you don't talk to, those friends you talk to every once in a while, who you call them after maybe a couple of months of not talking, you just pick up where you left off. And you have the people in the back. They don't have to get out. But those are the people that you talk to the least amount of times. You might check in with them maybe once or twice a year. They're still in your life. They're still important people to you. They just don't have an active role that they play in your life in this season. And at any time, anybody in any of these 3 rows can switch rows. But there's going to come a moment, potentially, where they got to get out of the van altogether. And then you need to keep going forward. And so I kind of look at my life and a lot of the people who have an active role in my life, and I put them in the front seat. And I'm like, okay, if you're in the front seat, what are you doing? What value are you adding? Like, what kind of influence and impact are you having on my life? And then I did the same with the people in the middle. Who are my people that I only talk to every once in a while, but they're still there? And then the ones in the back. Who needs to get, who's 2 seconds from being put out of the car, but she's still there? And so that kind of gave me perspective of how I interact with people and who I value the most and spend my time with the most. And so once I was able to do that, my life got so much easier because the pressure and just it's pretty much like the pressure and the feeling that you need to entertain all these people, even though y'all aren't in the same place or they just don't fit in this season of your life. All of that went away because I was just like, I need to give people grace. You're not where I am at the moment, and there's nothing wrong with that. You might be here in a couple of years, or you might go past me. You might be too far ahead that I'm not there yet. But that doesn't mean that you have to kick everybody out of your life. And when I became a Christian, I wish I kind of had something like that to put people in their place and give me that perspective, because I think one of the hardest things about when you make that decision and you come out and you start changing and the Holy Spirit is in you and you get that conviction, but you also have that new sense and the discernment to see things, your eyes are open. I really wish I would have known what to do with people instead of just dropping people or trying to hang on to them. Sometimes people just need a new place in your life.
I mean, I kind of went through that like a year ago. A really close friend, 2 of them, we had like a sister group, if you will. Some things happened and we tried to like reconcile, but we just did not agree on a lot of things. And so she felt it best that, she just not be a part of my life. Or we just not be a part of each other's lives as heavily as we used to be. But the thing with that was that we just didn't talk. It was almost like, like we didn't exist to one another. But in public, when people are asking me about her, I gotta, put on a front and, because you don't want people knowing your business. But then you don't want to talk bad about them either, because it's not necessarily you per se. It's just something that you did. And I think it's important to at times separate the person from the action, because we are all extremely imperfect, and so just because you make a mistake doesn't make you a bad person.
Absolutely.
Now there are bad people, but I think that those people, like, I don't know, for me, in my line of sight, I think it's clear when you run into a bad person.
Yeah.
And so we didn't talk for a full year. And I had been, praying about it, like, well, do I reach out? Do I whatever? Because I was more so the one that did the offense. I mean, she had some of her own things too, but it was more so like it was me, and so I just was like, well, I'll give her space. I'm gonna pray about it. If the Spirit leads me to reach out and see if she wants to have a conversation. Well, really both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so more recently, probably within like a month, 2 months time, I was able to set up a conversation with both of them separately, when tensions have cooled and, all the things. And I think that people don't understand that, like, you gotta let it breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told them both, I was like, look, I understand that good friends come a dime a dozen. And, I know that, I did some things that were offensive to you, and you did some things that were offensive to me. But I don't think that this is a relationship that God is saying I'm not supposed to have. I just think now, because we've grown, right? We've evolved. It just is going to look different, because God don't just throw us away when we get on his nerves.
Exactly.
Like,
No, that's true. I have a friend that I was very envious of when we were younger, and that's what divided our friendship. And we went from being childhood best friends. Like, she's born 3 days after me. Like, we pretty much felt like we were separated at birth. But a lot of times I find that when people do things, because it was my fault that friendship fell apart. I feel like a lot of times when people do things, I wasn't a bad person. I was dealing with trauma and unresolved issues in the back. And I think that the person may have good intentions. I always had good intentions regarding this person, but the things that were unresolved within me, I allowed those to flow through. Now, you can judge me if you want to, but that's not who I am. That's not my character. That is just a human flaw that came through. And everything that I did could easily be, like, I could apologize, water under the bridge, and it won't happen again. However, I think the issue is, and this is our lack of accountability as people, where we don't want to own up to the things that we did and make amends, and other people want to hold on to one thing that we did that they didn't like, or one thing that we did that they loved, and then define us by that thing.
Yep. 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 That is human nature. That is what we do. That is what we do.
Yeah, I was reading through Romans, and like Paul breaks it down, and pretty much like we have a sinful nature. Like, these are the things that we do. We have good intention, but that just because of that sinful nature, the flesh wants what it wants. That doesn't mean we have to give in. We may go in with the intention of doing something completely different, and then dude we liked since 6th grade walks in, and he's single and I'm single, and then all of a sudden
right.
I speak from experience, but
right, it's got a little personal. Yeah, man. And I actually also listened to I don't know if it was a Bible study or a podcast. Either way, it was on Spotify. I'm not certain. I mean, it was a podcast episode, but it was a Bible study. And it was a woman, and she was talking about, oh no, lies, it was a man. It was a man. And it was a podcast episode, not a Bible study. This all coming back. So he talked about how, people will bring up our sinful nature first.
Yes.
Right? So like you're saying, you do the one bad thing, and then now, I want no parts. And so in referencing scripture, he was just like, people are very quick to jump to Genesis 3, but they forget about Genesis 1. And God created us in his image and his likeness. And part of that image and likeness is love, And so we forget that a piece that's in us, And so people just want to jump to 3, where it's, oh, well, she was tempted in the fall. Like, well, yeah, that did happen, right? But in the beginning, we were created in his image. And so I think that if you can remember, right, the God in me sees the God in you. If you can remember that first before you start, throwing stones right? I think it can make it easier to come to amends if that's what God is saying should happen,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because sometimes he will say, no, leave that there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think that in my situation, I was led to be like, okay, you did do something that offended this person, and while you may not fully understand, like that's not all of your job. It's really to, like you said, hold yourself accountable for the things that you did, apologize, and then
Mm-hmm.
also forgive them, because I was mad that she was mad. How? I'm mad that you mad. So now I got a chip on my shoulder, and like, no,
Mm-hmm.
you gotta let that stuff go. Every
You
morning
really
you wake
do.
up, you waking up with all this stuff. You feel heavy, and you trying to figure out why. Like, well, because you haven't. The first step, you gotta forgive, man.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta
Don't
forgive
carry
yourself
like
in most instances.
forgiveness is for you. It's not for
Mm-hmm.
the other person. It's so that you can lighten the load and you don't have to carry it with you. I think for me, I've had that same moment where like we have a falling out and I'm mad because you're mad, but then like cut to 10 years, why we mad? I don't know. And then we're sitting here laughing, and it's like I've been carrying this for 10 years for what? Because I don't even. You don't know what happened. I don't know what happened.
Right.
We need a third party.
To this day, I still don't know.
Exactly. I'm like,
You
you gotta
know.
leave. Like, give people grace. Forgiveness is for you, and just let it go.
Yeah, because life is heavy enough.
Right.
Like, life is, if nothing else is gonna be constant and consistent, life is.
Yes.
So there's no need in us making it more difficult, more challenging
No.
than it's going to be. And I will say that I feel like apart from things with like my mental health, because I got a recent diagnosis of ADHD, and so apart from that, like I just feel life is very, I don't want to say easy, but it just doesn't feel as hard to do,
Mm-hmm.
because I know that, in the end, I don't have no control of any of this.
No.
Like, I have zero control. So I'm going to be responsible for what I can
Mm-hmm.
and let God handle the rest.
Yeah. He created you how
Um,
he created you, and he can handle
mhm.
the excess.
Yep. So, I'm like, yeah, nah, it's too, mm-mm. I would rather wake up and just have an easy day without all of the extra carrying on and carrying. So,
Yeah. Now, I think you said a lot, and there's another episode that was done on here, and we were talking about the importance of mental health and really understanding how God created you, not just who He created you to be, but how God created you. Because I think that everybody has the little quirks and different things and the different complexities with who they are that make them an individual. There's certain things about me. I'm mildly dyslexic. I will mix up numbers so bad, so quickly, and be on the wrong page with the right set of numbers.
yeah.
Just completely mixed them up. And
Mhm.
I'm able to joke about it, which makes other people comfortable that I've
Mhm.
met who have other things that may hold them back educationally or anything like that. I used to joke about it in college. I would have the teacher, I'd ask, can you write it on the board? Like, just so I can
Mhm.
actually see it and match it and be on the right page. And it made other people more comfortable with calling out the things that they needed assistance with. So I think the beautiful thing about you understanding that you have ADHD and calling out, like, yes, it's a complex thing, but God created you how He created you, and there's purpose in everything that He put in you. And I think
Mhm.
that by saying that, you're going to bless somebody else who may be struggling with it because they feel different, or they just are having a hard time accepting the diagnosis. It's
Mhm.
just who He created you to be. It's just another part of it. And life does not have to be so complex. You can just find whatever mental health care that you need and you can work through it. It doesn't have to
Mhm.
stop you from being as great of a person that he created you to be, or doing the things that he created you to do.
Mm-hmm. And when I was diagnosed earlier this year,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I didn't actually go in for that. I, I
She
was
just
just,
loved when they diagnosed you. Like, I didn't ask for this.
I really didn't. That's not
I
why
came
I'm
in because I had a
here.
headache.
It's like, what? I was just looking for a new therapist. I felt like my time with my current therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm trying to get my charger. My time with my current therapist, I felt like we kind of outgrew one
Mm-hmm.
another. Um, there were some other things too, but overall, I think that was it. And so I just started seeing her, and one day she was like, "Do you have ADHD?" I said, "I don't know." She said, I think you should see a psychiatrist." I said, okay. And so I found a psychiatrist, because she's not licensed per se to make the type of diagnosis, because that's not her particular
Mm-hmm.
field of study. But she was like, I do have patients that have ADHD, and you just seem like one of them. I said, golly.
You're in good
Um,
company.
and so I got with the psychiatrist and had a few sessions with her. She was like, yeah, I think you do. I, I think you do. I think you would benefit from medication, like medication coupled with therapy. I think that it would be helpful. And so I got prescribed meds, and it was like a fog had been lifted. Like I'm like, I have been looking at life like this whole time. Like this, it's not like the fog was clear to me, which right, like I was looking through fog, but it felt like that's what it was supposed to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And so once the fog was lifted, I mean, I think I might have cried. I was like, I said, Lord, you let me walk around here like this? Like, really?
Well, maybe
How was
if
I
he
just
hadn't let you walk around like that, you wouldn't be able to see the difference.
And so a part of me was like relieved, but then another part of me was grieving, because I can remember, I mean, from being a small kid, there were just so many different instances where I just never felt like I fit in. I felt super awkward. I just felt, you know, just very, very different, even in school, right? Once I got to high school, I started struggling in different classes,
Mm-hmm.
right? And even in college, I mean, it got worse. Um, Started self medicating and trying to do things to feel normal, right? And just, I mean, it was terrible. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I feel like I have been drugged through the mud. Like, and at one point, and I had this conversation with a friend, but I was like, when Paul talks about the thorn,
Mm-hmm.
in his side, and he's praying to God, asking God, can you please take this from me? Like, I think there's only a couple times in the Bible where people ask God to take stuff from them, and God said
Mm-hmm.
no, right?
Yeah, Jesus is one
Um,
of them.
yeah.
Yeah.
He said no.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. And so I kind of sort of liken it to the thorn. Like I feel like it's my thorn, because I've literally, I mean, been in tears on my bathroom floor. Like there are some days where ADHD will rear its ugly head, and the whole day is just, it's a terrible day,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I'll just be like, why, like, why, like this feels, now that I'm, even I guess now that I'm aware, right, it feels that much more difficult and challenging, and quite frankly frustrating and annoying, you know, because why can't I get out of the house on time? I set an alarm. I'm looking at the clock. I have this. I put this here. I have my systems. I did this, and then I still managed to not leave on time. Or I still managed to forget my laptop that I need for work. How do you forget the thing that you need for work and you going to work? Like like baby girl, so it gets super frustrating. And I remember there was one time where Oh man, whew, this was a week. Okay, I was crying every day. I lost my wallet. Um, wallet. Your wallet has everything in it.
Mm-hmm.
That same day, I lost a check that was written to me,
Lord.
for like $1,000. Okay, and I was telling one of my friends that I lost the wallet, and he was like, "Well, you need to have these different systems in place. Make sure that when you whatever." I said, I know. Y'all be saying this like I know, but it ain't that simple. And so I was like, well, okay, I'll put the check in the wallet next time, right? But then you lose the
No.
wallet. But then you lose the wallet. We were getting ready to move. The woman needed her deposit. I'd have
Mm-hmm.
lost every piece of money I got. Like it was just such a rough week.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was like, this is not fair. You know, it's not fair. I said, whatever this is supposed to be for, I I I feel like I still maybe don't understand right now,
Mm-hmm.
but okay.
It's for something else. I will tell you that. When I moved to North Carolina, USPS lost my deposit for 2 weeks. We drove all the way here. I'm crying in the hotel because
Oh,
I'm here, but my check isn't here.
oh
And I'm
no.
like, that was like, I'm moving from Texas to North Carolina. I have no other money. Like, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was like, it's okay. It's okay. We're going to go to Wells Fargo. We're going to get a check. Like, I'll do it. And then when the other
Mm-hmm.
check comes, you just void it. It'll be fine. I'm like, all
Mm-hmm.
right. And so I've been praying and crying and just stressed, like I don't know what. And instead of trusting God in that moment, he was like, watch me show you, watch me work. We go
Mm-hmm.
get the check and we're walking to the office to go get my keys. And I'm like, I got the check. As soon as like, we are literally, you cannot make this up. We are walking to the office. It's me, my dad, and my nephew. And I kid you not, when we get to the door, USPS pulls in, walks with an envelope through the door before I walk through the door, hands it to the lady. I walk into the office and the lady was like, oh, your check came.
Oh wow.
I was
Oh
like, okay.
wow.
God's like,
Oh wow.
God's like, hold this, watch me work. Like,
See,
everything that happens is not for nothing. You may not understand it like you said, but this is a story that I tell so many people that his timing
mm-hmm.
is so, so perfect. It's
Yep.
it's annoyingly perfect.
Right.
Like, I would love to not have to go through things like that. I pray I don't ever have to go. I will never put another check through USPS.
No, no.
Like, I will
Mm-mm.
not do
Get
that
that
ever
choice.
again.
Mm-mm.
Certified mail my foot. No.
For real, and it's just like what the song say? He's an on time God.
Yes,
I
he
get
is.
that. I get that. But like God doesn't even fit within the confines of how we identify
Thank
time.
you. Yes.
He is time. Like
Period.
I just like the so our little human selves, we just be so strict looking at the clock like where but I will say after all that,
Mm-hmm.
um I ended up having a few friends that were like, well, how much do you need? We will send you what it is, and then when you find all your belongings, you can just give it back. It's okay. And so the whole time, like you said, you crying and carrying on,
Mm-hmm.
and you trying to figure it out. He's already worked it out. You just
Mm-hmm.
gotta, you just gotta go with it. You gotta go with it. So, now that wallet was a different. That was a different. That was different. The wallet was different. I ended up finding out that my child hid the wallet.
Oh,
Yeah. So,
they do
uh,
that.
yeah, she learned a hard lesson that day. But um, because she thought it was like we played hide and seek with things,
Uh-huh.
and she thought that it would be funny to also do that with my wallet, not understanding how important
that item is. So it was a teachable moment. We had a conversation. Don't do that no more.
No,
Don't
no.
touch.
No, I've lost my wallet. I've misplaced. I did not lose my wallet. I misplaced it once. And the amount of stress, because I have 2 Texas licenses. I'm not in that state. I'm not going back to go get it,
No.
to go retake my picture and all that. I know how stressful that is. I think that a lot of times when things go missing, a lot of times it's God's way of saying, I need to show you something. It can be also a teachable moment for us, because in the moment that I misplaced mine, I needed to slow down. Because literally I looked at the place where it was and I did not see it. And it got to the point where he was like, now you can't go anywhere because you don't have any money, so go sit down.
Listen, go sit yourself down.
Yes.
Yeah, so all that to say, I definitely have been feeling like, okay, your brain is different, you know, and it's okay. We're gonna lean into that. I mean, you've been leaning in it this whole time. You just didn't know, you know.
Exactly.
Um, now some of the things it's like, oh, like that's everybody. Everybody doesn't do that. Everybody doesn't know. Oh, okay. Um, but for the most part, you know, I like to think of it as a superpower. Because it's my brain has been created that way. I know that I think about things differently. I, you know, have all these ideas, all of these ideas. Um, some of them great, some of them not so great, but like they're ideas that can be thrown out and used. And you know, I'm just like, okay, this is what it is. The more you try to fight against it, the more it fights against you.
Absolutely.
So you just got to lean into the way God made you. You have to lean into it.
Yeah.
Because he gonna
I
get the
always
glory
say
one way
you
or another.
sometimes when God makes you some way and like you have complexities to who you are. No matter who you are, we all have complexities to who we are. But I think if we say God, thank you, because on the other side of that, it could have been 10 times worse. It doesn't matter if it was by personal standard, cultural standard, I don't care. It could have been so much worse. This is figure outable. And I'd just be like, thank you, God, that is figure outable. A lot of the things that I've gone through with my mental health, I've been in therapy for like 6 years now. And I'm just like, you know what? I have a lot going on, but it's all figure outable. It doesn't diminish who he created me to be. It doesn't diminish who he is. We are all imperfect beings in our own right. But even through all that, he knew what he was doing when he created you and he gave you that gift, whatever it is, because he knew that you'd be able to use it. The amount of people that you can literally bless because of who you are and how you are as a person. Like the way you're able to talk to people and just like love on them, but also like give them information and just set them straight. I think that is a gift. And this is just another door that he is opening for you to reach different people who have that. ADHD is very common and like it's a very complex thing to deal with. But I think even from your perspective, you have the ability to bless somebody because he didn't give that to you for nothing. And if you lean on him and say, God, what do you want to do with this? Use me. He will show you a new avenue and a new way that you can use this to further his kingdom and to help his children within his kingdom. And even the ones that don't want to acknowledge him, because you have something that is so common, you can reach so many people. Even if they don't know him, you have the ability to introduce him to them through this.
Yeah, man, it's yeah. Every day is a day. I like to say it helps me add a little flair to my life.
There you go. It's just a little flavor.
Just a little bit. Just a little. But I did want to, so I have been, I've kind of had a small obsession with Matthew 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to read the part that I've become most obsessed with. Okay, it's Matthew 6, starting at verse 25, and I'm reading from the ESV.
Mm-hmm.
And so it says, "Therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on it. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them.
Mm-hmm.
Are you not of more value than they? And which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour to his span of life? And why are you anxious about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which today is alive and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? Therefore do not be anxious, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the Gentiles seek after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them all. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Therefore do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble." And that is
that.
what I have been like just really meditating on and sitting with, because I feel like my whole life overall, when I think about the many different lives that I've lived, the experiences that I've had, there have been times where I have literally been homeless and sleeping on different people's couches. Everything's been in my car. I had a dog during this time. Like, you know, and it seems as though I worried less then about the things that I would need, and I wasn't even really close to God like that then.
Mm-hmm.
I worried less then fast forward to when I was, trying to get closer to Christ, and my walk, my faith walk, and I'm like, why are you worrying more now? Like, what? Why are you worried? You were never worried, and you were out here living, okay, and not even depending on God to provide and do the things that he did, and he was doing it anyway because he loved you.
Mm-hmm.
He still loves you. Like, and so this, I always bring myself back to this particular passage because it's true. Like, I remember I was in Jamaica, and I would go to the beach every morning, and I saw I know it was the same bird. Nobody can tell me that wasn't the same bird. It was the same bird at the same time every day, like clockwork. He would fly overhead, swoosh down, get his meal a few times, and be gone. And I'm like, if that bird knows that if he comes to this spot, he's gonna eat.
Mm-hmm.
He don't wake up thinking, man, what am I gonna eat today? He just wake up and he come to get his food.
Yeah.
He's coming to get the food. He ain't waking up thinking, am I gonna eat? He's waking up saying, what am I gonna eat today? Not am I, what?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I feel like nature, when God created nature, like, it is the example of how you should live.
Absolutely.
Because all of these things, they are doing what they were purposed and assigned to do.
Come on.
So,
Come on. I'm not, no, this is good.
They're not out here worried. Worry what? They don't even know what that is.
That's so true. That is
Now,
so true.
granted, global warming and climate change and all those things, but we did that.
Yes.
So now we're affecting the natural order. That's us. That's our fault, right? So there may come a time where that bird comes to fly because he knows food's going to be there, but it might not be there because of us, right? But he knows. He knew he was going to eat every morning. And every morning he ate it. Every morning I watched him fly, make that circle, and
wake up with that
them.
expectation.
Like, girl, it was one of the mornings. I just started praising God. I said, God, that is amazing. You are amazing. These fish, the fact that everything is such a way. The fish come in at a certain time because he's gonna fly up at a certain time. The waves, baby, y'all cannot, y'all. If I don't care, God is real. I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear. There's nobody or nothing else that could have created such a system.
Absolutely.
Such a system. So anytime I feel myself, I'm like, baby, I think about that bird.
And it's the simplest things that have the deepest message of who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think about that bird.
We need to lead and live with expectation that he will take care of it and that he will order our steps.
That's it. So, and honestly, that has really made life easier to live. It's made it easier to live. You know, I gotta go to the grocery store right now. But yesterday, I think my kid was like, I'm hungry. I said, girl, it's something in there. I'm gonna cook something. But there's food in there, so you're gonna eat. It's okay.
But I love how your daughter is like the bird. She has that expectation, and she knows. At dinner time, I can go to Mama and be like, "I'm hungry," and she'll be like, "All right."
And sometimes I don't know what it's gonna be,
but that's like that childlike faith.
Yeah.
That we are called to have. It's that waiting and having that expectation that God will handle it. Everything that you just said is the perfect depiction of who he is and how he orders things, and we just have to trust him. Like everything, and this is what I tripped on so much. The more I get to know who God is, the more I realize how simple life is and how complex we make it.
Yeah.
It's literally us. We are global warming. Like everything you said, it is literally so simple. Yeah.
Yeah. What the songstress say? It could all be so simple. Baby, she wrote that song. It could all be so simple. So yeah, I wanted to share that.
No, that was
that blessed somebody.
That was an amazing. Yeah, that was perfect. You have no idea. That was so perfect. And then that you read Matthew 6 because that was in my devotional today. So that was nice.
And it's still blessing people.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
He knows what he's doing.
He really does. We don't. We have no
idea. I appreciate you for coming on here and being so candid and sharing your story. And I pray that this touches and helps so many people. It was a pleasure to hear this side of your story because we haven't had this conversation. So it was just like, it opened my eyes to who you are and like where God is taking you and just how much you've grown over the last couple of years. So it's beautiful to see. And I absolutely wish you the best in everything.